Looking back at the prior Bitcoin halving cycles reveals that the whole cryptocurrency market experiences a catalyst in September. You read that correctly. XRP, Solana, BNB, Ethereum, and all those other cryptocurrencies will experience huge fluctuations in value at a specified period of this halving cycle. We should expect a lot of changes for Bitcoin, XRP, and almost all other cryptocurrencies now that the halving cycle has begun this year. In today's video, though, I'll be showing you the exact cycle, how it begins, the expected price of Bitcoin at $100,000 or more, and the exact moment when your favorite cryptocurrency assets like Ethereum and XRP will begin to get a flood of liquidity. This bull cycle is going to be unlike any other in recent memory, and we'll go over a few important indicators that will help you understand why in today's video. All right, let's get started. Please hit the like button so that everyone can see this. I will begin by presenting something completely new to you all. If you want to know the plain truth about when a cryptocurrency, stock market, or real estate boom is likely to happen, it's my little secret. Thus, a couple of fascinating things will jump out at you from this graph. Primarily, there was a time in 2008 and 2009 when the overall quantity of dollars in circulation increased dramatically. Coincidentally, this is also when the markets began to bounce back from the devastating meltdown of the 2008 financial crisis and really took off. The overall money supply has increased by another enormous amount since then. Levels that came before this one, starting with 15 trillion and going all the way up to 21 since the beginning of this year at the same time that the Fed was printing all these trillions of dollars. You might also recognize this time if you were within the Bitcoin industry. Why was this taking place? I can tell you that Bitcoin was reaching levels it has never faced before. In a relatively short amount of time, digital assets like Solana and XRP have gone up 100 times, and Bitcoin has gone from an unbelievable price of $30,000 to $70,000. Timeframe 2020 to 2021, please. It was at this point that the entire globe understood what Solana had done all right. Intelligent investors know exactly what to do with the money that the Federal Reserve prints and decides to invest it. They can put their money into a safe asset class. And for many, Bitcoin represents just that opportunity. Solana was considered by many as a means to that end. A lot of individuals thought XRP could help with that. And it is the very reason why those assets rose so sharply. On the other hand, I'd want to highlight a particular stage of this cycle for you. In 2020, in February, the supply will undoubtedly soar during the next 3 or 4 months, reaching a peak in May. From 15 to 18 it ranges. That is really crazy. In all of human history, this has never occurred. Never before has the world witnessed such a massive printing of currency. The production of new currency persisted until at least February or March of the following year, at which point interest rates began to rise, leading to a natural decline in the money supply. And ever since then, it has been quite stable, although it is still cause for concern, isn't it? Many individuals were unsure of the future of the economy. However, let's examine the actions of crypto during that same time, as well as the time it took for Bitcoin's value to begin rising when printing began in February 2020. Here is where something very fascinating takes place, all right? Right now, the market for Bitcoin drops from $10,000 to nearly $5,000 as a direct result of the Federal Reserve starting to print money. Its worth drops by about half. After its value drops by half, though, what comes next is the place where some of the wealthiest people in the world got their start. It goes from $5,000 per coin just after printing begins to $60,000 per coin exactly 1 year later, okay? $5,000 to $60,000. Buying a large quantity of Bitcoin at $5,000 would have yielded an obscene amount of profit. This much is obvious. However, what many altcoins did in the subsequent 10 months after Bitcoin reached its all-time high was even more repulsive. When Solana completed that 100x I told you about, that's when the money started rolling in. It wasn't limited to Bitcoin alone. I mean, it's possible to make a ton of money in Bitcoin by riding the wave of the Fed and the money supply, but there are altcoins that could have made you much more money. For that reason, I'd advise you to get Bitcoin and include it in your portfolio, but before you do, consider these 5 suggestions. I mean, if we look at the Bitcoin charts right now, we can see that its price is starting to go down. What's interesting is that the Fed is lowering rates, which many people see as having an immediate bullish effect. Now, I get it, it's exciting because there's a chance that money may come back online, but we can't forget what happened here. So here are 8 altcoins that you think will get a ton of liquidity after Bitcoin hits its peak. People were filled with dread and worry. The moment the federal government began printing money in February 2020, markets plunged by half. The stock markets are utterly decimated. Markets for real estate are devastated. Afterwards, isn't that when all the good stuff happens? Our all-time high occurred over a year later. When it happens, the newly printed money starts to circulate and be spent and used, because of course people's money was physically depreciating at that point. A $100,000 investment would be worth $70,000 a year later. They are determining, okay, I want to put money into something that I think will stay around and not simply disappear. Insane when you give it some serious thought. The truth is, many folks I'm seeing right now aren't ready for this. It might be a risky period if the Fed keeps cutting rates and starts creating money, as expected. Not paying attention to past monetary cycles could catch many individuals unawares. As I demonstrated to you, this did not occur alone in 2020. When all these big banks were bailed out in 2008, it also occurred then. It has occurred repeatedly. Furthermore, these monetary cycles also seem to coincide with the halving cycles of Bitcoin. Many individuals also fail to understand this. A question that crosses their minds is whether we are witnessing the Bitcoin halving cycle or the M2 monetary Federal Reserve cycle. Unfortunately, that's correct. The M2 Federal Reserve cycle is to blame. They're the ones who print the money, devalue it, and make people look for ways to keep their wealth other than in the US dollar. So they're the ones who start it all. Listen up, I think you'll find that interest rates will keep falling. However, a lot of individuals are considering the possibility that if interest rates were to drop, the market value would rise. The situation is more complex than that, though. Assuming we reach the interest rate low and who knows, the money picture comes back online a year from now, the price will likely go up. However, my friends, it will not continue indefinitely. There will be a huge dump at the beginning, you should be ready to make a purchase there. This occurred during the last Bitcoin bull cycle too, Looking at this chart, we can see that in April of 2021, the price of a Bitcoin coin reached almost $60,000. Boom! About 3 months later, I guess. Coins are now selling for $32,000 and their worth has dropped by nearly half. And I believe we're going to run into the same problem over here. Two people. From its all-time high of $71,000, I predict that Bitcoin will fall 50% before a second leg up brings it to its real all-time high. It was at that point that the cycle reached its peak. All of the liquidity for the altcoins comes from that point on. At this point in time, how many months till our cycle peaks? At this point in our cycle, we are around 5 months from the apex. At this very moment, we are approximately 4 months along. Our busiest month in September is May through June. So it's been around 4 months. There must be a reason why it's moving at a slightly slower pace now. From a high of $71,000, we're now at $56,000. However, I must admit that, in all candor, I believe that the price action here is likely to be quite red over the next bit. And we should all make plans to be ready for that. Every long Bitcoin position was sold off. Now that I've made my money, all I can do is wait for the markets to react. I am prepared to make a purchase, Sure, I'll buy a bunch. Ready to acquire cryptocurrencies, I'm sitting on a ton of cash. Moreover, listen up because I have something quite lovely to share with you. The time to buy XRP is now, but if you're not willing to take any chances, it's not the best moment to buy Bitcoin. Sure, you could invest in XRP because if you look at prior cycles, you'll see that although Bitcoin did experience the 50% decrease, the majority of altcoins did not. Lower volatility characterizes them, and XRP is on board with this. On most days, XRP is actually doing better than Bitcoin in terms of relative performance, not to mention that its price has been far more stable than Bitcoin's. Therefore, you can confidently dollar cost average into XRP or even leverage trade it at this time. Therefore, I am entirely devoted to that. For the time being, I will wait for the Bitcoin bias. Much XRP is being purchased by me. Additionally, you are free